7 major fires and complexes, and tragically 23,000 people continue to be evacuated from their homes. 19,000 firefighters from all across this state and across this nation are working 24/7 to address these wildfires. So 2,400 engines as part of our mutual aid system that are deployed. 26 people tragically have lost their lives, and 6,400 structures have been destroyed. Again, I caution everybody on these numbers. The 26 fatalities and the 6,400 structures are based upon what we have seen, what we have witnessed, but by no stretch of the imagination do we think this tells the entire story. As we get back in and people are able to repopulate, go back into their communities, we'll determine more structure loss. By the way, that's destroyed, not damaged structures. That number would be substantially higher if you included the number of structures that have actually been impacted directly by these wildfires. But sadly, 26 people have lost their lives to date. I want to focus on, of those 27 active fires, 6 fires, one that's very familiar to many of you, the August complex, which is the largest fire in terms of total acres burned in California history. The last time I presented this to you, you saw some 817,000 acres that were destroyed in this complex. 30% containment. We've made some modest improvement in containment over the last number of days, 34% versus 30% contained. And you'll see the acreage has grown, but modestly compared to seeing some of the growth we had seen over the course of the last few weeks. Some 846,000 acres now burned in California's largest wildfire complex in state history. The number 5 largest complex in history is the Northern Complex. This is in the Plumas and Lassen counties. Last week you saw 36% containment, 273,000 acres that had been burned in this, again, the 5th largest complex in California's history. We've made real progress in this last week, 64% containment from 36%, and you can see the acres burned has grown modestly from 273 to 294,000 acres. The Creek Fire, where I visited Senator Harris a week or so ago, now the 7th largest fire in California history, primarily a federal fire, but impacting parts of the state and our responsibility area. This is an incident command shared with the U.S. Forest Service and CAL FIRE, primarily in the Fresno, Madera counties. 18% containment, 220,000 acres. Last week, you'll see we've made some stubborn, very stubborn wildfire complex, but we've made some progress, 27% containment from 18, 278,000 acres burned. I wanted to highlight just a few other fires that have gotten a lot of attention, and deservingly so. The Bobcat Fire in LA County was at 3% containment, 44,000 acres burned when we last updated you. 15% today, but you could see more than doubling total number of acreage that have been lost in this fire, 105,000 acres now being impacted. So we're putting as many resources as we possibly can on that fire. Again, our mutual aid system that exists within the state of California and outside the state of California. Some 15 mutual aid states are helping either the National Guard or CAL FIRE directly, and we're putting all the resources we possibly can on all of these complexes, but focusing, as we should, on that Bobcat Fire as well as the El Dorado Fire, which we made some progress last week, 60% containment on that fire, 18,000 acres. But this fire continues to be stubborn. As you can see, we've gone backwards just modestly in terms of total percentage contained. And you can see increase of about 5,000 acres over the last week. So between the Bobcat and the El Dorado fire, obviously stubborn fires, impactful, and we continue to do our best to address those complexes and those wildfires. The Snow Fire as well, I just wanted to offer. This is a fire that we didn't update last week, but it's one we're monitoring. I wanted to share it with you. Last week, we were about 5% containment, 4,000 acres. Looks relatively small compared to some of these other complexes, but it's a fire of concern and one, again, of focus. Today, we are making progress. Over the weekend, we were able to substantially increase the containment by multiples, now close to 40% contained, 38% contained, but you're still seeing some stubbornness and growth of total acres involved in that fire. Now some 6,000 acres have been burned. So those are the 6 that we have been focused on disproportionately. We, of course, continue our efforts throughout these other large complexes, but now 5 of the top 10 most impacted wildfires in our state's history are continuing to burn, though with real progress on some of those larger complexes, not just the August, but the LNU complex, the SCU complex, where we're seeing real containment on that CZU complex as well out there in Santa Cruz Mountains area. And again, that's testament to the extraordinary men and women, CAL FIRE, and the mutual aid system of support. Wanted to update you now on where we are with our case numbers as it relates to COVID. You can see here on the 7-day average, we've averaged some 3,400 cases. We're down modestly with the latest report, 3,294 cases as part of this report. And by the way, those 3,294 cases are off a total number of tests of roughly just shy of 150,000 tests that were conducted. And as a consequence of a substantial increase over the last few days of number of tests conducted, close to 170,000 on Friday, 180,000 roughly on Saturday, roughly 150,000 on Sunday, you could see the 7-day average of daily tests now moving back up to where we were pre these wildfires. Again, that heat dome, the heat wave, the wildfires, air quality were impacting our total testing availability in this state. We're starting to see those numbers go back up now, just shy of 124,000 tests, average number of daily tests over the last 7 days. What is very encouraging is you can see that positivity rate, some 3.1% over a 14-day period, 2.8% over a 7-day period. So testing now increasing, positivity rates continue to decrease in the state of California. I mentioned this the last time I updated you, that we're making real progress on building out this very large lab where we will substantially increase our testing well above the 124,000 average daily test you see reflected in the last 7 days. We are on schedule in terms of those efforts. And again, it's just a point of emphasis that we are committed to increasing testing in the state of California. We're not retreating from our testing responsibilities, quite the contrary. We are of the firm opinion that the sooner we are able to move forward to increase the availability and the timeliness of tests here in the state of California, we will have more clarity and more assurance in our capacity to move more swiftly to not only reopen different sectors of our economy more fully, but also reopen our schools in a more sustainable way as well. And so one cannot let up on those efforts. And again, California prides itself on its commitment to advance our testing in a substantially more comprehensive manner, more of a framework of equity, a focus on reaching out to underserved communities, and time frame to getting test results back within 24 hours. And I should just note the backlog now in terms of testing results has substantially declined over the course of the last number of weeks. Just shy of 70% of the tests now are coming back within a 24-hour period, and substantial number within 48 hours. We'll monitor that, but we want to see those test results back within that 24-hour period as a benchmark, as a foundational principle, but again, continuing to provide access and to provide the kind of quality surveys that all of us in this deserve, continues to be our goal. A goal as well is to see hospitalizations decline in this state, 23% decrease now over a 2-week period. This slide is becoming very, very familiar, and again, very, very encouraging slide. Hospitalization numbers declining at a relatively consistent rate over the course of not just the last 2 weeks, but even beyond 3 or 4 weeks. Tracking consistently with those declines in hospitalizations or the ICU admissions here in the state, tracking roughly similarly 25% decrease in the total number of ICU admissions over a 14-day period. So real progress as it relates to our case counts, real progress as it relates to our positivity rate here in the state of California. Remind you, 2.8% 7-day positivity here in the state of California. Testing starting to increase back up, a commitment over the course of the next number of weeks to substantially increase still our testing to provide points of access to our schools and more broadly to target underserved communities in the state of California. So we have a real sense of the community spread, particularly as we move into the fall, we move into flu season, and we move in to a challenging environment where we could potentially experience what some refer to as a twindemic of flu and COVID overwhelming the ICUs and hospitals. We want to avoid that. I'll be talking in the next few days about how you can help aid and advance that by getting a flu shot. But today, I just wanted to update you on some of these efforts that Dr. Galley and his team have been advancing as it relates to the mitigation, the spread and transmission rate of COVID-19. By the way, Dr. Galley tomorrow will update you on our tiered status. I know many counties are anticipating moving into orange status, some into red, and some that are right on the cusp. I'll reserve further commentary on this, except to say that data is being collected in real time. It would be premature for me at this moment to announce what Dr. Galley will announce tomorrow as it relates to the progress in these tiered status. But every Tuesday, I remind you, every Tuesday, Dr. Galley will be making updates on our tiered colored status. And we anticipate, as we're seeing progress in decline in admissions in hospitals and ICUs, positivity rates beginning to decline, that we'll continue to see progress into those tiers and a very thoughtful, judicious, modified strategy of reopening our economy will be advanced accordingly. So will the likelihood of more waivers being supported for our younger cohort of students and progress towards getting people back in-person education, making sure that not only the kids are safe, but our paraprofessionals and our teachers are safe as a foundational principle of advancing that cause. Speaking of causes, we have not let up on our commitment to the cause of doing everything in our power to address the issue of homelessness here in the state of California. Last week, I updated you and I previewed that I will continue to update you on our efforts on this remarkable initiative called Project Home Key. I say remarkable because there's simply not a state in America that's committed to this kind of capital infusion to purchase motels and provide for permanent supports of housing for homeless individuals. Last week, we updated you on some $76.6 million that we're providing for 7 specific projects here in the state of California to advance that cause. Today, we're announcing the second round of awards. And again, this is happening in historically short period of time, and it shows a resolve and a commitment, a sincerity of effort, and a long-term strategy to address homelessness in the state in a way the state of California has never done in the past. I stipulate that we have a moral and ethical obligation to address this issue head on. We need to see better results at the local level and the regional level, and we need to make sure your tax dollars are going for their intended purposes, and that's to produce real permanent results. That's foundational in the home key strategies. This second round of awards is testament to the hard work of our team and our task force that is organized around the principle of a housing-first model. Again, shelters solve sleep. Housing and supportive services, we believe, begins to more substantively and permanently address homelessness. $236 million, some 1,810 units, 20 projects in 12 jurisdictions, including one Native American tribe that are getting this now second tranche of awards. We have those reflected here on two slides, this being the first of the two slides, giving you a sense of the totality of awards that we are providing. The Kashaya Band of Pomo Indians be the first tribal award that we provided under this program. We want to thank them for their partnership. We hope it's not the last in terms of availing resources to our tribal nations. Accordingly, we are diversifying the home key efforts, focus on farm workers, focus on LGBTQ youth, our seniors. You can see here the diversity of municipalities and localities getting the benefits of these awards, including the city of Mountain View, doubling the number of available beds through this award in that city. Oakland, two large projects, 163 units. Fresno and their housing authority focusing on a motel conversion. Up in Shasta County, trust me, some of these counties have not been part of our efforts of support in the past to support homeless efforts. Shasta County, a new shared housing model, innovative model. The city of Ventura, they're renovating apartments, some large projects in San Francisco. San Diego, you can see some 336 units that are being advanced. And talking to Mark Ridley Thomas, Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, the co-chair, along with Daryl Steinberg of our homelessness task force. They have 5 motel acquisitions that they are poised to make, some 430 units made available like that. And by the way, the cost of these programs, negligible compared to the cost of some other programs. So we believe these dollars will not only leverage other resources at the county and federal level, but also private sector support, and based upon our commitment to bring down the cost per unit to an average of less than $130,000. Original goal about $150,000, but we're currently averaging $130,000 a unit. We think we can do more than even our original ambitious goals. Santa Clara has some move-in ready units they'll be advancing in the city of Sacramento. Daryl Steinberg, thank you for one of his projects that he's been most enthusiastic about financing, and with this second tranche of award money, that 124-unit hotel conversion will soon be underway. Speaking of things that are underway, the work we have to do is self-evident as it relates to unemployment and PUA support for those that are trying to navigate our unemployment and pandemic unemployment assistance system here in the state of California. This system is an old, 30-plus-year-old technological system. For those that understand a little bit about technology, these are the old Cobalt systems, these legendary Cobalt systems that need to be upgraded, frankly, need to just simply be strewn to the waste bin of history. But nonetheless, we inherited a little bit of that waste bin, and as a consequence, we've been trying to patch it together, and we recognized that we can plod along in the short run, we can plod along in the medium run, we can have a long-term strategy, or we can come up with new ideas from a different angle. We put together a strike team led by Yolanda Richardson, who will be up here in a moment, and by one of, I would argue, one of the most impactful technologists of the sort, and someone who started Code for America and worked in the Obama administration, Jen Polka, to provide us input from a private sector perspective, and looking not just at technology, look at business process improvements and looking at new strategies. They co-chaired a task force, and they came up with a series of recommendations that already we have put into place. I mentioned last week that we anticipated the fruits of this report, which, by the way, are not just a strike team report. They're also a consultant that we hired, a report from a consultant, and a response back from EDD. I made it clear that when that report was done, we would make it public, and we worked through the weekend to do just that. Came out late on Saturday night, but we said we were going to move forward, provide that information in a transparent way. We've done that, and as a consequence, the reset started this weekend. I didn't want to wait another day to start this reset period to get this system back on its feet and get us to a position where we can address this significant number of backlog cases. By the way, in the report, it's remarkable, showed an independent review that showed our system, as challenged as it's been, is actually performing much better than the vast majority of states. Dare I say that as a nation, we have a huge IT problem. As a nation, we must do what California and I would argue municipalities must do, and that is completely reimagine our approach to large-scale IT procurement. The fact that we have been consistently one of the top 10 states in terms of percentage of people that have filed and received checks, now 14th by one analysis, suggests how low the bar is in terms of our systems across this nation. And so I'm not here to compare and contrast. I'm here just to give you a sense of what governors and what state legislatures all across this country are facing in terms of this historic number of cases that we have to adjudicate. And I say adjudicate because we're adjudicating fraud. We've had fraud schemes all across the United States of America, disproportionately hitting states that have no income taxes for various reasons that become very obvious on the verification side when you consider. We are not immune from those fraud efforts, and we are making real progress to weed them out and hold individuals and organized groups accountable. But one of the most important things we can do, and what we're doing as part of this 2-week reset, is implementing a new automatic ID verification software system. We went through about 16 or so vendors looking at what was available out there, and went down to about 12 where we really tested and kicked the proverbial tires, and we've come up with a system called ID Me. This will process about 90% automatically of all of the new applications. You'll have requirements under this automated IT system to do selfies, to provide additional verification in ways that we think could substantially, not exclusively, no one's naive, but substantially mitigate fraud. We are now aware of 5 states that are in the process of utilizing similar technology. We were comparing and contrasting. I think Texas soon will be doing the same, though I don't want to speak for them. But we've been able to share best practices. We've been able to talk to our colleagues all across this country, not just governors, but our strike team looked at those best practices in terms of verification software. And that's the one we've landed on, and we're moving quickly in this 2-week reset. We also are looking at business process improvements, not just IT improvements, taking some of our most senior staff members that have been working the phones and now using the more senior staff members with their unique insight and expertise to go after the most complex and the oldest cases that are the most stubborn and I know frustrating for many of you trying to navigate this system. We're also focusing on our email backlogs and mail backlogs and aggressing more aggressive strategy on outbound call effort, not just reacting, but being more proactive in adjudicating claims and moving claim processing forward. The goal is self-evident. It's to reduce that backlog, reduce at the moment the growth of that backlog. Again, we say short-term, medium, and long-term. We believe this 2-week reset will do just that. We're also making available more ability to download forms and information using your mobile devices and having better and easier information available on your mobile devices as well. We want to meet people where they are, and that means meeting them on their smartphones and providing that information in a much more expedited manner with more clarity and with more focus on what the real needs are. So that was all parcel of the strike team report and this consultant report. And I should just say, and I'm going to ask Yolanda to come up here in a moment, that the reset does not mean that those of you that are now for the first time applying for benefits will be impacted in terms of those benefits being provided. Quite the contrary. we believe this will fast track the likelihood that you would otherwise gone into a manual process that could take upwards of 60 days. Unacceptable. And so we believe, and Yolanda will talk in a moment, that this reset will make not only this process better in the medium and long term, but begin to substantially address the backlog over the next 90 to 100 days with the goal to substantially have addressed it and not impact any people that are applying for the first time in terms of the timeliness to a check. And so it's in that spirit, with that consideration in terms of the ambiguity perhaps in some of the reporting about what a reset actually means to new applicants, that I would love co-chair of our task force, Secretary Richardson, to come up and talk a little bit more about her team's efforts, her recommendations, and what her expectations are moving forward with this system.
Appreciate that, Governor. On behalf of the strike team, my wonderful co-leader, Jen Palka, we really want to thank the governor for the opportunity to go into EDD and bring a fresh perspective on their operations and to build on the efforts to design a faster and better experience for the hundreds of thousands of deserving UI claimants across the state. The governor could not have said it better. Our charge was clear. We were to go in and look for how we can ensure that claimants can have the experience that they deserve. And so our report, which we have provided to EDD, is over 70 recommendations, specifically focused on doing a number of things. One, definitely reducing and preventing the growth backlog. And we just, at this time, want to really applaud EDD for embracing the idea of the reset, which will allow for those people that the governor mentioned. 40% of UI claimants were going into a manual process. And by embracing this reset, we are giving them a 90% chance going forward of having a much faster experience. This is about getting a check in their hand much faster, and we really appreciate that. Our recommendations were across the board, definitely looking at their processes, looking at redesigning the experience. And so we believe that if EDD embraces our recommendations, they will be well on their path to creating a first-class user experience, minimizing processing delays, being able to open the mail, being able to answer calls. And so we really appreciate, again, their embracement of our recommendations, but most importantly, the Government Operations Agency, in partnership with the California Department of Technology and the Office of Digital Information, is looking forward to supporting them on their journey to creating that first-class user experience. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and of course, here to answer any questions on this topic as well. But first, I know there may have been a little bit of focus last night on the Emmys. I was a little bit more focused on Oscar, and that is one of the characters of Sesame Street last night. And I wanted to share with you that focus and share with you a new PSA that we partner with the Skoll Foundation on in the state of California to announce. And no further ado, let's tune in to America's most grouchy, Oscar.
Oscar the Grouch here to tell you, yeah, you, to wear a mask when you're out in public around other people. It isn't difficult. Even a 3-year-old can do it.
Hi, everybody!
Sure, it'll keep you and others healthy, but more importantly, I won't have to see your happy, smiling face, and I can make grouchy faces at you without you knowing. Another benefit. So, if you don't want to wear a mask, I've got just one thing to tell you. Scram! Go away!
Caring for each other because we are all in this together.